I am Lisa Singer, and I am the event editorial manager at Media Post. And this is Brand Insider BTS, where we kind of go behind the curtains and really find out all about these really influential, powerful women in marketing that are so impressive, just like the person with me today. And that's Erin Levzow. And she is the Vice President of Marketing Technology at Del Taco Restaurant. So welcome, Erin. Thank you for joining me.
Of course. Thanks, Lisa.
Well, I have to say, you have received a number of awards in your career. It's very impressive. You were CMO of the Year once, Global MarTech Leader of the Year, just to name a couple. But what I want to ask you about is you were part of the top 25 Future is Female Award, and that's by Advertising Week New York. So talk about that. Like, what is not the award itself per se, but just women, the future of women, not only in your industry, but just in what you experience career wise. What do you see for that?
That's a good question and a very big question. I think that women in our industry, it shouldn't be women or men in our industry. It should be that we exist, right? And that I long to get to a point where we don't need specific groups to call attention to us, right? To say that there is a Future is Female award. It's just a leadership award, right? It's the same way I feel about when people say, you are just a phenomenal female leader. And I go, I'm a phenomenal leader.
Yeah.
I long to get to the point where it's just equal. It is not odd to walk into the room and be one of many women there. And in fact, have a very diverse and inclusive room, versus some of the rooms I have walked into that are only older gentlemen, and feeling like, hey, maybe I'm not inclusive here. Maybe there aren't as many women at the table as there should be. So that's what I foresee and hope for the future. Right now, calling attention to it, that we do need to continue to lift up, and not just for women, but for all ethnicities and different types of people, so that it is equal and it is inclusive across the board.
Yeah, well, talk about that in the sense that, I mean, a woman, and again, I know you don't want to be women leadership, you want to think about leadership, but there are more. We are definitely seeing
Yes.
more women leaders. It's amazing at our summits, which you just participated in last, what was it, November, October? I'm trying to remember.
Feels like so long ago. It
It's
was
like all blends in,
beautiful.
especially with
There
everything
was
that's
no
going
new
on.
COVID variant. It was wonderful.
I know, it's like, oh, we obviously we love hearing that side of things in terms of you talking, creatives and what you're doing, strategically, but talking again with going behind the curtains and as a woman leader, and as I said, we are seeing more. We see more at our summits. My boss, Steve Smith, he even has mentioned that, one of the first ones I attended when he was like, wow, there's so many women in the room, whereas maybe a few years back, they were all men. And in an industry like that, in an industry that has been predominantly male, that not only in terms of the food service side of things, but also in the advertising side. I mean, I think we see more women in advertising, but not at your level. And I'm not saying today, I'm saying that has been through the ranks, which
Yes.
you've gone through those ranks, you've seen
Mhm.
that. Talk about that and your experience. Did you ever face sort of that, boys club kind of situation, or ever feel like, was there anything that maybe happened that you were just like, wow, okay, I gotta, just sort of get through this, or how did you get through it?
Yeah. So I came out of not just restaurant, but hospitality too. I spent the first 10 years of my career in Las Vegas, working in restaurants and hospitality casinos. And I was often the only executive woman at the table. It was rare if there were multiple people who looked like me sitting at the table. And I will tell you, one of the most prominent moments that I look back on that was pivotal in how I perceived myself, as well as continued to portray myself as a woman, was I've always been direct. I've always been like, here's my opinion. You don't have to take my opinion, but I'm going to put it out there no matter what age I've been, or that I've been a woman and still am a woman, right? And I remember sitting at the table and leaving because my ideas kept getting shut down and I couldn't understand it. They were nicely shut down, but they were shut down. And then someone would say my idea. And I was like, I literally just said that. But I couldn't that was before anyone had taught me this idea that like someone just mansplained my idea, but I couldn't, at that point it didn't connect for me. So one day I did stay in the meeting and I said, I think I just said that. And I tried to be nice about it. But to my point, without like, I didn't know how they were going to respond. And someone goes, well, I don't know. I don't think you did. And I was like, okay. Well, I left that meeting and the general counsel, who happened to be a woman at the time, she was not at the executive table, but she was at the executive level. She pulled me aside in the hallway and she scared the crap out of me too. And she said, she goes, people are going to call you a bitch. They're going to call you a lot of names. Do not change anything that you are doing. She goes, you scare them. And I didn't know what to take. I walked away going, who do I scare? What did I do? How did I mess this up? And I sat with it and I realized that was the best advice I ever got, which when you boil it down, it's you do you, right? You portray yourself the way that is authentic to you. And you need to negate some of these opinions, because just because someone else thinks that I'm too demanding or I'm not empathetic enough, even though I'm very empathetic, that's on them, not on me. Their perception of me is not, it's not something I have to own. So that's something that's lived with me for a long time and made me realize that I can be a strong woman and continue to be without having to worry about how someone may or may not perceive me accurately.
Well, and I think that that's, again, something else that innately is difficult for women. You know, what do you mean I'm a bitch? Like,
Yeah.
in one, the fact that you're a bitch, whereas a man is, wow, isn't he astute? Doesn't he
Yeah.
know he's confident? He knows what he's
They're
doing.
really a leader, right? They're
Yes,
really
they're a great
strong.
leader. They know how to get people behind them, and
Yeah.
you're of course a bitch. But that said, like you said, even when you first thought about it, like, what did I do wrong? You don't
Mhm.
want to be perceived negatively. And I
Yeah.
think women, especially, I think men can sort of, again, not all, I'm not trying to stereotype. I mean, I know everyone's different, but in general, women kind of take it on. They sometimes want to be liked or
Yeah.
want to please. Maybe that might be the better way to say it. So how
Yes.
did you wrap your head around that in terms of, you are a strong woman, you were a strong woman, even when you were just starting out, so that you had going for you. But what
Mhm.
else did you do to sort of maneuver through that kind of, attitude and try to keep your head moving forward without
Yeah.
alienating, but at the same point
Mhm.
doing what you need to do?
The good news is I'm a connector. I like to connect with people, and I like to get results. And results, especially in digital marketing, speak for themselves. So as long as I was getting results, that's what matters. But I will tell you, to answer your question in like the shortest form possible, it's therapy. A lot of therapy. And I say it half jokingly and totally seriously too, because I believe as women, especially women at an executive level, you need to have a sounding board. You need to have someone that can talk this through with you, so that when you come out of a really hard meeting, that you can pick apart what was actual feedback that you need to do something with, and you can pick apart the feedback that you're going to throw out the window because that was unconscious bias, right? And that's really difficult to learn. It doesn't mean that when people give me feedback I don't take it. It doesn't mean that their perception of me isn't reality and it's not important. It means that some of it is, and some of it I have to peel apart and go, all right, that was unconscious bias based on the way they were raised or the way they view women or the way they view diversity. And some of that was warranted, and I do need to make a change on that. And how do I manage to that? So that's how I've gotten to where I'm at, and understanding what it, doing a lot of soul searching of what is authentic to me, right? Man or woman, whoever you are, you have to be authentic to yourself. Otherwise, why are we doing it? And I've been told as a young professional, I was once told I was too happy. You're too happy. You're so happy all the time. Like you need to control that. You can't be that happy. It doesn't show that you're professional. And I just thought, this is not for me. I can't do this as a career if I genuinely am not allowed to portray happiness, because that is core to who I am. And come to find out, no, in order to be a professional, it turns out you don't have to throw away your happiness. But again,
I think so.
sounds crazy, but it took a lot of soul searching to figure out, all right, who am I? Who do I want to be? And whose feedback do I want? And whose feedback do I need to negate?
Yeah, no, and I think, again, it's kind of getting to know yourself first, and
Yeah.
then, you can then as you said, you sort of take in what people are saying,
Yeah.
and if if warranted, you adjust. If not, you know yourself enough to keep moving forward, and that does take a lot of strength. But it also, I think, it does take really knowing yourself, and it's
Yes.
that soul searching that you said, make it, you maybe joked about it, therapy or whatever, and how we do it, how anyone
Hmm.
gets to that point, is so important. And now you talked a little bit about that you hate that it's women leaders and men leaders, like it just should be leaders. And I definitely agree with that. And we are seeing it different today. Things are different today, but they're still there a little bit, or sometimes a lot. Someone just starting out, when think about when you started, that you now just starting out today, how do you think they need to go into it, maneuver it? They're not going to
Yeah.
have that kind of confidence that you just stated right off the bat. Most likely they may, but
Hmm.
in general, they need to sort of figure out the waters. Plus, they don't have the luxury, even if they have that confidence, if they're at a lower level, they don't have the luxury to be able to say those kind of things.
Right.
What do you recommend? What would be your advice?
Um, so none of this negates the work. Work hard. No matter who you are, you need to work hard. But find a mentor. I mentor a lot of young women right now that call me all hours to ask me a question. And what's interesting, and a theme I see um, pretty commonly, is like they're all reading the same books, right? They're reading the lean-ins. They're reading all these studies about how a man will apply for a job when they're 60% of the requirements. They have 60% of the requirements, but a woman waits until they have like 99% of the requirements before they're like, okay, I could do this job. Let me hit apply. They've read all the same studies that everybody else has. And then they'll go, I don't know if I should apply. And I'm like, what? Like, what do you mean? So for some reason, they feel like they are the exception, not the rule. And it's needing that extra confidence boost. And no, you can go do it. Well, I don't know if I can, because what if they ask me to do this? And they put this futuristic plan in their head of like all the what ifs that could happen. I said, you don't even have the job yet. You haven't even clicked the apply button. Click the apply button, go down the rabbit hole, and then decide if you want the job. But don't sit there and talk your mentally put all this negative emotion out there about it, because guess what? You're probably not going to get the job then. So when I talk to young women, I say, you take the leap, you take the jump, you work hard, but you take that jump. You reach out, you find a mentor, someone that you can ask questions to that you respect. Don't go find a mentor that you don't respect. Find someone who looks like someone you want to look like in 5 years, 10 years, maybe even 2 years, and go ask them questions. How'd you get there? What did you do? What can I do? And have specific feedback that you're looking for so that you can go action on it.
Yeah.
And that's what you can do, all of that without ever having to say anything in your workplace if you don't feel like raising your voice.
Well, and I totally agree with the fact that, and it is easy to say, you want to, you almost feel like you don't want to, deceive anyone, like you
Right.
thinking, okay, it has, as maybe 20 things checked off that they want you to be able to do. And then it's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, I've never done this. And then you feel like, okay, I don't want to, or you sometimes feel like you have to say, maybe you still apply, but you say, well, I can't do this. But like,
Right.
I think women I've talked with tend to do that. And I know earlier in my career, I was guilty of that. Like, okay, this isn't something that I can do.
We
I
all were.
want to put out, I put the negative out there, so then they don't find it for me.
Right.
I think I'm trying to beat them to the punch. You know what I mean? Like, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'm going to tell you all the bad stuff about me, so then you're not going to discover it. So
Mm-hmm.
I do think that is very common with women to do that. So I think that's great advice, that you just like need to just dive into it and
Yeah.
do best. So, well, obviously you're doing that. So that's a good thing. And it's great that you're mentoring, because I mean, that is so important, because there are a lot of, women who are just trying to maneuver the
Mm-hmm.
waters there. Well, I want to go a little bit now lighter. So just, of course, because Del Taco, I mean, man, that's, very fun, usually active kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
sports, doing whatever, just having a, good time. And one of your slogans was Delia, or it is Delia. You
Yes.
hear that a lot, and for all different things. There was one I was seeing. What was it? A country music one that you guys have? Like, was it a country singer doing
Um,
the whole song with Delia?
oh yeah.
That was
Yeah. Our mm-hmm.
great. Yeah, I love that. But well, one of your other slogans, I think maybe 10 years ago or so, was bold or go home.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to ask you, what to you does that mean to you? Bold or go home? Like, what do
Yeah.
you have to do boldly, or just you're not going to do it at all?
Everything. It's so, my husband says it's exhausting being me, because my whole life is go big or go home, right? It's go bold or go home. We have notebooks that say, do epic shit, right? Like we're not here to do just a little bit. Like we get to do really fun stuff. We sell tacos. Like who doesn't want to do that, right? Like we have an entire day of the week, Taco Tuesday, dedicated to us. Like it's wonderful. So everything we do, doesn't matter if it's an activity, a hobby, how I raise my children, it's not to be the best, but to do it the best of our ability. And and for me, that means like taking the leap, taking the risk, um, things that most people would say no to or not open their eyes to. If someone asks me about something, it's very rare that I'm like, I won't try something once. Another example, our family earlier this year, Safe Families, it's an organization globally, was very much in need of places. They try and keep kids out of foster homes. So when a parent's in an emergency situation, they place these children who would be homeless or going into foster care with parents for a moment in time, could be a week, could be months. And then the parents eventually rehabilitate and can take their children back without going into the foster care system. And we opened our house to 2 toddlers. And I thought, I jumped. We all did. And then once you're in it, you're going, holy crap, what did we do? But you get through, and it was the most life-changing experience I could have had in the middle of a pandemic to say, you know what, I'll take in 2 homeless toddlers. I don't know where they came from. They're not my children, but let's go. Let's see what happens. And it was very eye-opening. And the amount it taught me is more than people go, look at what you did for those children. No, look at what they did for me, what they taught me. So when I think of go bold or go home or do epic shit or Dell, yeah, it's all encompassing, right? It's how do you attack life? And that's how we do it, right? We're all in this together. My goal, while I'm only one person, is to hopefully change the lives of the few I can around me and to continue being a positive light while I do it.
Wow, and that is so amazing. I mean, I know, you said you got so much out of it, but to really to do something like that is really incredible, especially during a time when people didn't know what was going on with the
No.
pandemic. It was a scary time, and then to take on,
Yeah.
you know, 2 young children, that's a big deal. So
Mhm.
that is very, very good pat on your back for that.
I learned how to put a stroller up and take it down again. And these newfangled strollers, I was like, this stroller's never, like, I just parked it in the garage. I was like, I can't even get it down. Like, this is it.
Wow, well, that's really wonderful. That's definitely very nice of you, your family, all of it. Like, yes, you got learned from it, and people do, as you said. I think when you do take on these new things that maybe you think you can't do, I think you get back tenfold, usually. So I
Yeah.
do understand when you say that, but the fact that you did it and opened your house and your heart to that, so
Yeah.
that's a lot.
Thank
So
you.
um, now I guess we're talking no really segue there, but in a sense, I mean, dealing, with, we talked a little bit, mentioned the pandemic, but you there was definitely a light in this time for you. I like to, when I talk with
Mhm.
other marketers, I usually try to find a silver lining. I'm not talking about the pandemic right now. I'm talking about just more in your life, whether career or personally. Has there been something that has been so traumatic or awful, or maybe not traumatic, but just you thought it was the worst thing ever, and it turned out that it really was the best thing ever? It was definitely a silver lining.
Um, I have a lot of those. And if people want to know all of them, they're welcome to reach out. But I have had a lot of traumatic experiences through my life, but I truly believe most people would look back and go, oh, I'm sorry that that happened to you, but they made me who I am. I know one, professionally, I found, well, the recession hit, lost my job, recession, right? Everybody did. But then again, when I was an executive at Freebirds, they let go of a lot of people, and I was one of them. After the CEO had chosen to leave, and they brought in general counsel. And I remember getting a phone call on November 4th, sitting in a hotel room. I was traveling on business, and that's how they told me. And I really thought, like, this is it. Like, I'm gonna have to sell the house, move down by the river, right? Like the whole, I mean, shacks down by the river, like Chris Farley, way more expensive now. But that was like where my head was, right? Like, this is the end. This is the second time I've lost my job for no reason, nothing I've done, but I'm in this situation. What do I do? And nobody hires during the holidays. So like people have conversations, but nobody's hiring. So that's 8 weeks of people going, just enjoy the holidays. But you don't know where your income's coming from. How do you enjoy the holidays? So I truly did for those 8 weeks think, this is like, I need to find a new career. Who works in an industry that could just randomly lay them off twice? Um, and January hit, and all of a sudden I had all these offers coming in. And looking back in retrospect, there's a crap ton I can learn from the experience, including being at peace in the moment. But it taught me a lot. And I look back and I think that's the only reason I'm where I'm at now is because of that experience. I ended up landing at Hathaway, a MarTech agency, which is amazing. And I met some of the most wonderful people I've ever worked with. And that kept leading me through. I'll tell you another example is my third kid spent 2 weeks in the NICU. And when I look back, the first couple days, they said it was just like normal. And then he had an SVT episode where your heart races, they can't shut it down. They have to inject medication into him so that he doesn't die. After 72 hours, he had another one. If he wasn't in the NICU to begin with, there's a chance he wouldn't be alive. So in retrospect, in hindsight, my son was saved by the fact that he had that weird thing at the beginning that then saved his life when he had SVT. And he stayed in the NICU for 2 weeks. And me, in the moment, was just wanting to bring a baby home, right? Why am I leaving the hospital without the baby that I expected to leave the hospital with? But again, looking back, it has made me who I am. I have more empathy for that. He was on beta blockers for like the first 6 months of his life. And now I just celebrate him because this little man is stronger than anyone I ever could have known. And you would never know he had such a hard start to his life. So those are like a personal and a professional things that definitely, I won't say like I'm ecstatic that they happen, but they taught me and they were that silver lining. They are things I look back on and I learned from, or they made me grow.
They made you who you are, like, you know,
Yeah.
and that's obviously the positive is there, even though at that time it was, you know, so negative. But you sort of mentioned, you didn't say specifically, but you said you learned things. And I mean, you said that more with in terms of the losing the job, but also even with your son and what you went through. What did you learn? Like, was it like, what did you take from that most? I mean, I'm sure you
Yeah.
learned a lot of things, but what really strikes you most that you really were able to then use as you moved forward?
Two things. One, the everything happens for a reason. It is so hard to believe that. And it sounds so cliche when you're going through it, right? No one believes that everything happens for a reason when they're in the middle of a traumatic experience. You find me the most religious church you can and find me someone in that church going through a traumatic experience, doesn't matter how religious they are, they still are going to have a hard time accepting that everything happens for a reason. It is just a hard concept to get when you go through trauma. But when you can look back and go, I see it. I can see it. I saw it for myself, whether it was personal or professional. I see the reason. It makes you start to believe it going forward, right? And again, like I can throw out a lot of cliche statements, but the whole "it doesn't kill us makes us stronger," right? Like there were moments where you're just like, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? And being able to believe in myself was the most important, right? Reminding myself that while career is not my identity, my job is not my identity, my family, even though they are a strong piece of me, is not my identity. I'm my own person. And that's, again, therapy and figuring out who I am. These are all pieces that make me who I am. But when one folds, what's the support system to back up the rest, right? So it really did make me stronger. It made my support system stronger, whether it was my family going through something and needing to lean on other things, or my career life not going as well, needing to lean back on the other support system. So again, I know I just boiled it down to the two most cliche things anyone tells you when you go through trauma, which is everything happens for a reason. And if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. But they are really rooted in something for me.
Yeah. And I mean, do you think, because you talk again, sort of that therapy and getting through it, what were you always on that track with therapy, or did something like what happened, you know, with your son, and I mean, obviously that couldn't be more scary than to anyone, you know, for any mother to go through that. Did that put you more on it, or when did you really get
Um, in college, I had some trauma and I started therapy and then off and on. And ironically, when I first moved to Vegas, I worked for a psychologist's office and I saw it firsthand what it could do for people. I saw for veterans what it could do for veterans coming back from the war and being rehabilitated. And while I wasn't at the time going and saying, like, I'm going to go to therapy and I'm going to do this, what I found is I've always needed a sounding board, right? Someone that can hear my truth and then speak it back to me so that it helps me determine where I'm going. And then through the moves, when you're moving so much, having someone to talk to, whether it's a traditional psychologist, whether it's connected because I'm getting my special needs daughter help, whatever it might be, I found that it's useful not just for me, but for my family around me. And understanding the way I view the world versus the way other people can view the world. So I think it's always been there. It's just taken different forms throughout the years. And that's okay, right? Like you don't have to have a therapist that's with you for the rest of your life. It's like sometimes they serve their purpose for whatever you needed them at that point in life. And then a little bit later, you need someone new and you go find someone new to talk to, right? But it's always with this idea of continuing to grow myself and to understand the world around me.
Yeah, I mean, you're evolving, and I think someone in your position saying that is important to hear. You know, there are so many people. There's a stigma around therapy. There's an embarrassment. People
Mhm.
don't want to talk about it. I mean, again, that's something that's changing, and people are trying to make it change. We just, had with Miss America.
Yeah.
We seem like the most together, like had a job that people would love. You know what I mean? Had a situation, and then that's what happened. She kills herself. So it's a
Mhm.
scary thing and it needs to be talked about. And I think that you are willing to talk about it is so important and so valuable to younger people, especially, but every people who are at your level, even people above,
Mhm.
whatever it may be. It's just, I think people need to hear about it and know that it's, a good thing, and it's not an embarrassing thing. It's not, it's not a, what is the, not negative, but, you know,
No,
you know,
there's no negative
there's
stigma
not,
around it. It needs to be gone away. And like you can call it whatever you want. Some people say, like, I have a coach. That's a therapist. Like different degrees, but same idea, right? They're helping you get somewhere. And
yeah,
so therapy, coach, career counseling, mentorship, executive leadership, all of these have that same idea of growing someone. And the sooner we can be okay with the fact that we all need that, we all need someone, right? We can't all live in our isolated towers. I think the better our society will continue to evolve and be.
yeah, I agree. And then also I think that they should, be doing karaoke.
Yes, absolutely. So much fun.
I see that you do karaoke.
Hmm.
Okay. What is the go-to karaoke song?
Um, so, so funny. If I had to choose, and I'm probably like a glass of wine in, it would be Sold by John Michael Montgomery. I just really like that song. I like how fast it is. It's such a old school song, but it's a fun song to sing at a bar. Otherwise, anything by Sugarland, right? Got to be something more, or Come On Get Higher. Like those are just fun songs to get up and sing, and they're uplifting songs. So,
Uh, Sold. I don't know that. So I don't have wine for you, but you need to sing.
oh no, not gonna do it. Not gonna do it. But next time we are at an event together and there's wine,
I will
we shall
be like,
see.
who's giving me these wines? Hey. Well, I think that's awesome. No, I actually love karaoke. No one loves me necessarily doing it because I can't hold a tune, but I think I emptied the place. Me and a friend
It's
of
fun.
mine sang Copacabana.
There
Okay.
you go.
And
Even if you're not a good singer, if you're having fun, that's what matters.
that's all we cared about. But yeah, no, I think we cleared the room. But anyway, but that's great. How about anything else that you maybe another guilty pleasure, something that you really love to do?
Well, a year ago, I took up ballroom dancing, and now I compete professionally in ballroom dance because I don't have enough other things to do. Our next competition is at the end of February, and I do it through Fred Astaire. And I will tell you, I went into it just trying to forget the stress of work during a time where you couldn't really leave the house. And what I found is something I love that taught me more about leadership ironically.
Mhm.
And then something that actually makes me better at my career because I'm so focused on it. So it's so funny how you fall into something. And I really didn't think, I thought it would be okay. I thought it'd bring our family together. All three of my kids now ballroom dance.
Oh,
They
so you're all
love
doing
it.
it with your husband, your kids, everybody.
Yes, everybody's ballroom dancing, competing. My 6-year-old son loves it, just loves it. Like he just announced to his class yesterday in front of the whole class, which he was very nervous about. He goes, I'm going to tell them that I'm going to be a dancer when I grow up. And I was like, go for it, dude. Like,
Yeah.
great idea. And even his dance teacher, who's this wonderful woman at Fred Astaire here, she was like crying because he was so excited. And that's a big deal for a little boy to get up again when we talk about gender stereotypes,
Yeah.
to get up in front of his class and tell them that he doesn't want to be a firefighter or a police officer or any of these things, that he or a lawyer or a doctor, he's going to be a dancer. He's going to be not just a dancer, a ballroom dancer. And I was like, do it. Like if I could have thrown a parade yesterday, I would have. I was so
That is so
excited for him.
awesome. Although you realize that you are going to be paying for him the rest of your life. If that's going to be his
Hey,
career, you may have to.
100%. But if he's a guy ballroom dancer, there are not enough of those. So if anyone's watching and they're like, I've always thought about ballroom dancing, you should. I feel like that's the place to be. Like my oldest daughter for a while wrestled, and I was like, there aren't very many women wrestlers. Let's keep going into these things that
Yeah.
are well funded for genders that are not doing them.
Oh, that is so great. That is really awesome. So, well, I love this. Could talk to you more. This is really. We'll have to wait to the next event, and I'll be buying you wine, and you can fill me in on the rest, and then we'll find karaoke.
Perfect. Wonderful.
Sound like a good plan? But Erin,
Mhm.
thank you so much. I really enjoyed this. I really appreciate it.
Likewise. Thank you.
And thank you guys for watching. Keep watching. We'll be here each week. And if you have anyone you want to suggest, please let me know, and I will do my best. Thanks.